Greetings everyone, welcome to this new build guide. We're gonna take a look at the Wolcen here. My first build guide for Wolcen. I'm quite excited about this game, even though it has some major bugs in it. It is still an awesome game and it's beautiful and it's really engaging end-game content. And I know everyone else is playing Blade's Edge, or what do you call it? Yeah, Blade's Edge or something like that. And it's such a boring playstyle. I just hated it. So I wanted to do a Mage build, and Winter's Grasp was quite prominent. I watched this on the Cicerone channel and I developed it even further from that. So it is an awesome skill. You basically, it's a walking simulator. You just activate this Winter's Grasp and you can instant cast it, which means that there's no cooldown or nothing. Easy to gear. I had yellow gear and I did the highest level of expedition, all the way up to 187, and you can see 187 and upwards gameplay here in the background while I'm talking. And I'm also killing the boss here, which had 109 million HP, and I killed him in less than or around 10 seconds. That means it's over 10 million in DPS, and that's only from pushing one button. So obviously that is gonna probably get nerfed sometime in the future, but right now it's super easy. And all the other skills I have on my bar is just for leveling basically. So I'm leveling up other skills because you never know which ones are gonna get nerfed and which one we wanna play in the future. But I highly recommend this one. It's easy to gear, easy to get set up, and you just need a certain level of Winter's Grasp, which we're gonna talk about later. But enjoy this build guide and let's go. First thing we're going to talk about is our skills that we're using, and Winter's Grasp is obviously the go-to one here. And there's a thing we're gonna need. We're gonna need to hit at least level 62, I believe it is, where the cooldown is so low and that we actually can instant cast it. So if I'm going right now, you can see I'm just dropping tons of these Winter's Grasp, and that's what is stacking with our permafrost, because it leaves damage area on the ground for a few seconds. That means we constantly are leaving like hundreds of these permafrost on the ground, and it's just damaging enemies together with some other modifiers, and it's just insane damage from that. But I'm just gonna go through real fast what I'm having. Average damage, of course, gives us an initial hit. I don't think it gives us anything for the permafrost, but reduced cooldown. There's one here and one here. I don't need this one anymore because my level is so high, but you would need that one. I would just take away the average damage then and just allocate this one, reduce cooldown again. And increase area effect, because we want to affect this big of area with a permafrost and our initial hit with Winter's Grasp. Critical hit chance, you can also take away that one. You gauge yourself which one. And critical damage is good for the initial hit. Right now the damage over time, even though if you take the Gates of Fate node in the skill tree, you're still not getting the effect of that because it's bugged at the moment. Which we'll talk about later also. And some ailment damage. Ailment is always good because we are stacking a few ailments in this build. I know that you can take this one, also curse stack, so that means we're not freezing our enemies. But I find that if we actually freeze them, they're never gonna hit us because we are hitting so fast. That means they're permafrozen. Even some of the bosses don't even move. Nothing can hit us. We have insane defense even without this, but with this we don't need to worry about anything. And now anomaly, area effect for vortex, and we are damage pulled into the vortex, of course. And I converted this also, so convert area to damage to lightning damage to just set one more ailment on the enemies, because we get a buff from our Gates of Fate, the more ailments we have, and we already have Aether damage from our main skill here, Stasis there, so we didn't need that one. So this, as soon as we pop this one, we get 5 more stacks of our, which is a damage increase, which I will show you later. You can see that in the beginning of the video on top of that. Increased critical damage, again, costing 2 vortexes. We're not doing this for the damage, we're mainly doing this for stacking some extra ailment and just having vortexes sucking them into one area. If you want to use it, you can. I mostly get lazy and don't use it, but it happens. I think I went out of my way in the video to use it a little bit more to simulate someone who's not lazy. And Bulwark of Dawn, I don't think it's the same thing here. We are doing ailments with this one also. Skill duration is always nice, then we don't need to pop it as often, and the cooldown will be so low that we can just always have it up if we want to. I'm again very lazy with this. And we want this, some damage when we're close, some extra DPS if we have it active, which means that healing around effect follows players when it casts on, which means that we do not cast it on a place, it's always following us. That means we constantly have the buff, and because we're always right on top of the enemies, this will always make damage. Increased chance to inflict ailment on enemies. Again, we're doing some ailment damage, which is really good for our overall build here. The rest of the abilities are not, well, we have this one also. We have Ether Jump, which I love. Willpower cost is not gonna make a huge difference when we have this much, but a little bit. Increased teleport range because we want to teleport fast around. This is our movement ability, so we want to activate it as much as possible. And some extra willpower if we teleport through. Cooldown, obviously, because we want to pop it as often as you can. I think it's down to less than a second now. I can pop it every time. And skill removes all crowd control effect, which is really nice, because that means if we ever get frozen or stunned or anything like that, that means we can just pop it and just get out of there and don't get slammed whatever ability the boss is doing. Increased movement speed of the teleport, very nice. That means that in that 1 second we can just pop it and run. Gain willpower again. You can switch around these, but I found this as the ultimate setup for me, and I don't think anything here would be replaced by anything. I know some people are using this, but it's using way too much willpower in my mind, and the cooldown is so low anyway, so yeah, don't use this one. I think it's a trap. It's a trap. Next section. For my gear, I think you can see here that it looks very overpowered, but it's really not in this game. I know it seems daunting. It's like, how am I gonna get all these legendary pieces? It is super easy. I'm gonna start with that before we actually do anything. So you can see all of these yellow bases I have here. They all have good stats on them that fits my build. But you can easily upgrade them. So you take one of these pieces and it has really good stats. It has transfer time, which I need, critical hit chance score, cooldown recovery, and all rest. Good. So this is a really good piece, but it's not perfect yet. So I take it to the dark market, click increase item rarity, put it in, and voila, it transforms into a legendary piece. Like this one. It did not come in this form. None of these things were legendary from the start. All of them has been upgraded in the dark market. So I go out, find good bases that already have 3 or 4 good stats, put them into the dark market, and out come an insane piece. Or hopefully it's gambling, so could be 2 bad stats and it could be 2 good stats. Remember, they can have 6 stats. Sometimes it only rolls 1 extra. Then you obviously need to use one of these, but the legendary version of it. So let's go into my gear here. So I just wanted to explain that before here, so you're not daunted by my gear. Because all of these were yellow before, or rare versions, and I still managed to do 187 without any problem. So this is not needed. It's just a bonus, of course. Let's start with our primary stats. We're stacking health, of course, generous health pool with toughness or ferocity on my gear. You can see here I have either toughness or ferocity on every gear piece. If you want, that is really good. So you want to obviously go for a little bit more ferocity than toughness if you can, because we're perma-freezing everything anyway, so we almost never get hit. But the most important stat I would say is rage and willpower cost reduction. As you can see, it's the second stat there in blue. That you can get on shoulders and on your gloves, or gauntlets as they say in this game. You want to have as close as you can. As you see here, it's not very high on this, it's only 33, but you want to have that as high as possible. And together with the Gates of Fate allocation of points, you can get it all the way down to probably 28 or something like that, or even lower maybe. I'm not checked out if you can get it lower, if I have 40 on each piece. A second really important stat is the transfer time reduction between willpower and rage. So when you're using your winter scraps, you can see here this becomes a little white area, and even if I'm clicking my potions here for willpower, it will not stack up, because that little area or that buffer time needs to get away, and you can get rid of that as fast as possible if you stack transfer time and reduction between willpower and rage. And you might be wondering why we're not having more willpower regeneration and any kind of regen for willpower, because those stats are broken at the moment and they do nothing for this build. There's plenty of those stats that would help our regen with both health and willpower, and they don't seem to do anything, which is very sad, because that would be truly overpowered if we could get those work. Maybe next patch. Otherwise, I think it's very important to talk about our helmet and our chest piece, because those have the heavy set. So you can see that our chest piece, it says heavy. There's sorceress, rogue, bruiser, and heavy. We want heavy because on Gates of Fate there's a node that basically gives a specific buff according to what set pieces we have on these slots. And this one basically doubles our resistance. So when we put this on, then it's gonna give us extreme amount of resistance. So if I take this off, you can see here I'm almost doubling by putting it on. Same thing here, almost doubling, and there we go. Sorry, this is also a little bit bugged. If you put on in the wrong order, they don't seem to activate, which is very silly. Same thing for the rest of the things here. We want some health if we can, and as high elemental resistance score as we can possibly get, or all resistance score I should say, all resistance score. Elemental is obviously important, but all resistant activates for all of them. That means we have material, elemental, and occult. For our rings and our amulet and our belt, we want to have at least 2 modifiers of spell damage, because flat spell damage scales a lot. Same for our catalyst. Try to get as much spell damage as possible. If you want to really min-max, then you might want to go for one element. So if you go for only elemental, because then you can scale more elemental damage on other gear pieces. I just went with whatever was the highest, and it seems to work out fine anyway. So right now I have a even distribution between elemental and occult. So yeah, I'm not gonna stack anything specific there. On our catalyst is always nice with spell damage, critical hit damage. Critical hit damage is quite a nice boost, so I used, as you can see here on the implicit, which is the white stat here, you have critical hit damage there and critical hit damage there. That's obviously best, and all attributes on my amulet. You want to find really good bases to just spell damage, as you can see there. All of these I crafted from, so I might have used some of the orbs here that re-roll these items and see if I can get. So get a good base, a high base. The higher it is in level, the more likely it is to roll high level stats. That means the highest range. And I think people are saying to use the expedition from 151 and upwards to get the higher levels, and then afterwards it's not super important to go any higher, but you have a higher chance, basically better odds of getting good stats. This has not been proven really, but it seems to be the general consensus of people. On our boots we just want some movement speed, and the same thing with all the other stats, just fill up with good stats. As you can see, the resource generation, it's not doing anything right now because it's a broken stat. For our gems, we want to just put in maximum health on these. I managed to roll only 2 here. I could re-roll it, but block chance is very nice also. It's an extra buffer of damage, so we don't get one-shotted if we get actually hit. On these kind of things, on our rings and on our catalyst, we would ultimately want the transfer time reduction between willpower and rage on everything. Again, I did not roll all these, and yeah, I don't really need it, so I was content with having 1 maximum health on this item also. On our weapon, you want to roll the number 2, the support number 2, or is it it's the what is the name of them? The name is not defense. Anyway, you want to roll number 2 here because you have ether damage added to spell, or all these spell damage. Like I said, flat spell damage like this is 32 to 32 is extremely beneficial, so you need as much flat damage at this as possible. Increased damage like spell damage here, 30%, is not giving a lot, or even the 45% elemental damage, it does not give a lot. This right here, one of these gem slots give much more damage in the outcome than all of the other ones. Make sure when you are putting in these gems here that when you hover over your winter scraps, you want freeze chance and stasis to be there, because if you have too much of one other element, then that is going to take over, because we need stasis for this build. That is going to be a huge damage boost. If you have problems getting as high as you want on those, then just replace this frost damage with more aether damage, and you will increase this so you can get stasis chance instead, because stasis chance is going to be all what we need. Rest is very generic. You can stop while I'm hovering over the pieces and just pick something that is good in the rare format and then put it into the dark market and upgrade it. Let's go to the next. For our Gate of Fate, I'm not going to talk that much about the small nodes, except in some specific points. But I have optimized it as much as I can, and it might look very scattered here on my Gates of Fate tree, but I've tried multiple iterations. If you can find anything that I'm wasting a point here and there, please tell me, but I think this is the most optimum path, and not getting these small nodes that gives nothing. So I pathed out of my way and not wasting point at that. So if I could take these, of course I could take this and get to this point instead, but that means I would already need to path here anyway. That means, yeah, these are better in damage values than these, for example. So that's how I'm validating all of these. But the first thing I would take is critical hit chance score and just path up here. And there's some good notes right down here. It's willpower cost reduction and max willpower, which means that we have a higher buffer, which is always nice. Then I'm gonna path up here and 100% critical hit chance score while willpower is above 75%. At least I'm trying to stay up there, but I'm not very consistent because I have so much damage anyway, so yeah. But I should be more vigilant of it. Then I'm gonna path up here and I'm gonna pick up some max ailment stacks, of course, because that means I'm gonna slow them even further and do more damage in the end. But this node right here is why we want the stasis damage on our Winter's Grasp to be the second highest. Because this one, when you hit an enemy affected with stasis, they take 100% of a hit. So essentially it's doubling your damage and 1.5 delay. So you're gonna see that you're hitting an enemy, wait 1.5, and then it's gonna be hit by a burst of damage. And we're hitting hundreds of damage, or hundreds of these Winter's Grasp. And that is just gonna stack, and it's just gonna explode. So even when you go away and not hitting the enemy, it's just gonna explode with damage. Then I pathed this way, picked up some tendon points here because it's a huge 15% reduction of damage taken, and you take this, that is up to 20. Max willpower, wait with these until a little bit later, because this is something I picked up the two right here a little bit at a later stage. Then I pathed up here some nice nodes with maximum health, which is quite a huge boost actually, especially if you have high stacks here, or a high amount of HP on your gear. Then I pathed, I think I pathed around this way, and then went, yeah, I pathed up this way and waited actually with these ones. Actually, you can take this one, killing an enemy grants 5% damage for each ailment stack on the enemy up to 5 stack. That means that's why I'm stacking so many different kind of ailments. So you can see me on the boss fight, I have 3 different buffs. I have it's 5, 5, 5, it says in the bottom right over my health bar. And that means I am buffing, there's 3 elements that I have stacks for, and that means I have 15, 15, 15. So ultimately it's 45 extra damage there, which is really nice damage boost. It's quite a lot actually. And I would probably not take this one anymore. I see people not taking it. Yeah, it's hard because they don't give you a gauge on how much each point, and they don't let you respec 1 point at a time. So I'm a little bit on the fence on this one. This one is a must. You need to pick up this one as fast as possible. Can now apply additional ailment. Without this one, we're only freezing our enemies and we're not gaining the effect of this one. So these ones basically you spec into at the same time. But if you're doing this guide right now, you're probably up to a decent level already. Then I pathed this way to pick up this one. This is the one that's doubling. Gain all resistance score equal to all resistance score on equal heavy chest. And if you take this one node, it's doing it the same thing on the helmet. So we're looking for the heavy modifier, the heavy chest piece. This is so strong. That's doubling our effects, and yeah, I cannot tell you how strong this is together with all the other damage reduction. Yeah, even if we get hit, it's barely gonna tickle. I picked up this one also because it was right under. It's a nice buff for some extra damage. Maybe you don't pick the other ones there on the sides here. It's not really needed because we're on top of the enemy anyway. You could pick up some global leech, but it doesn't seem to work at the moment as intended with the spells. Yeah, the global leech doesn't work very good. Then I pathed this way, mostly because of the willpower cost reduction, as you can see here, and transfer time reduction between willpower and rage. But I noticed this one is quite good actually, because it activates and it regains 20% of my willpower. The explosion is negligible, but the willpower is very nice boost right there. So it's gonna activate, and it seems to activate more than every 5 seconds. So I would definitely, only 1 point away from where we were anyway, and the points we need to pick up anyway. So I would definitely recommend going for that. Then we're gonna pick up some points over here. You can see me going for almost here, and this is the one I'm gonna pick up next, and deal sacred damage instant, kills enemies below 15%, so it's basically a calling strike. So I have one item piece that actually gives me the sacred damage I need for this to activate. So next point would be there. Then I would path into this one, damage when only one enemy is within. So this is good for bosses, because this is actually a huge damage boost for bosses. And then you have always the critical hit damage. I think this one and this one is always the staple of any build. But yeah, so you have to gauge yourself which one you want to take. I highly recommend to go with the ones that gives you a less cost of Winter's Grasp first, and then try to take the additional ailment and stuff like that. We can also take a look at my stat allocation, which is super simple. It's all in ferocity. La-di-da, like everyone else. I know some people are pushing in, but I just pushed everything in here. Again, I cannot stress this enough. It's almost invincible anyway, so why don't put in for extra damage? Let's go to the next. Actually, there's no more stages to this guide, and I just want to point out one more thing before I end this build guide, and you can give me your comments in the comment sections about it. It is that Winter's Grasp, because we're hitting so frequently, there's some server lag attached to it, or there's some memory leak as it's called. And that means we're gonna need to restart the game. Not restart the game, just go out in the menu and then go into a delay. So log in, log out, and then you're in the game again. It's a little bit tedious, but it's wasting about 20 seconds every I don't know, 6-step expedition or something like that. You log, as soon as the game starts to lag a little bit, then you go in and out, and it's basically resetting the memory on the server side for you, which is really nice because it gets you can basically get 1 frame per second in the end, and then you're just gonna disconnect if you're not doing this. So that's the only negative thing about this build, honestly. You can obviously improve with more abilities down here at the bar if you want to click more buttons, but like I play in Path of Exile, I don't like to push a lot of buttons. So I try to minimize that as much as possible and just keep it as simple as I could. Hopefully I made myself understood, and if not, then leave a comment and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for putting a like on this video and subscribing to my channel. Have an awesome day, everyone.